How many modes of action? How many modes of action? So, in other words, because the Buddha's doctrine is about karma vipaka. So, really, he's talking about volition here. How many modes of volition, how many modes of karma is what he's referring to. To which Digatapasi's response is, no, Venerable Gautama. Action is not the word used by Nigantanatha Buddha. In his teaching, offense is the word used. Offense. So in Pali you will find the word danda. The Buddha asks about what are the different types of karma that Nigantanatha Buddha speaks of, to which Digatapasi's response is, he doesn't speak of karma, he speaks of danda, or offense. You know the danda niti sangraha and so on, the penal code and so on, right? So offense, he just speaks of offense. So then the Buddha asks, well, okay, how many modes of offense are there? How many modes of offense does Nigantanatha Buddha, your teacher, declare? So the answer back is, he speaks of 3. There is the bodily offense, there's the verbal offense, and there's the mental offense. Now the Buddha speaks of similar 3, but he doesn't speak in terms of offense, he speaks in terms of karma. Vachi karma, kaya karma, mano karma. Now, at this point, the Buddha asks, okay, so these are the 3 that your teacher teaches. Which one is the most heinous? In other words, which one is the more severe? Which one is more powerful, more potent than the others? So, Digatapasi says, well, of the 3, my teacher, Nigantanatha Buddha, proclaims that bodily offense is more heinous than the others. Okay? So now the Buddha, usually this is his method, his style, he'll allow anyone the opportunity to change what he has said on 3 occasions. So he'll always give someone opportunity to save face. Really, that's what he's doing. He's giving him another chance. Are you sure? Because you have come here to debate with me, right? You sure? You want to stick to your word? You sure? So he asks on 3 occasions, and on all 3 occasions, Digatapasi says, yep. I'm sure that this is what my teacher teaches, and I'm sure of his teaching. That is, bodily offense is more heinous and more severe than the other 2. So the Buddha says, okay, fine. And then Digatapasi asks, well, Venerable Gautama, in your dispensation then, which offense do you proclaim to be more severe than the others? And then the Buddha says, I don't speak in terms of offense. I don't speak in terms of danda, which is the Pali term. I speak in terms of karma. So there are 3 karmas which I also proclaim, but in my dispensation, mano karma is more potent and more powerful than vachi karma and kaya karma. Yeah, so that's a lot of the discussion that happens there. So on this occasion, having these 2, the Buddha and Digatapasi having exchanged this, Digatapasi then gets up and he's about to leave. So that is a brief conversation. That's all they exchange. So Digatapasi now leaves. He leaves and he goes to meet his teacher. Who's his teacher? Nigantanatha Buddha. So when he approaches Nigantanatha Buddha is with a gathering of his disciples. They're all sitting down and talking with each other. And so Nigantanatha Buddha asks, well, Tapasi, from where do you come in the middle of this fine day? To which Digatapasi replies, I come, Venerable Sir, from the presence of the Samana Gautama. So this chap, that's how they would have said, this chap called Gautama, I've just come, I've had a chat with him, and I've come here after that. Because they don't regard the Buddha with reverence, because they don't believe that the Buddha's teaching is the path to liberation. They believe that they have it all and they know it all. So Nigantanatha Buddha in his true fashion asks, well, Tapasi, what was it that you discussed with him when you met? And then he said, when I met him, I talked about this, we talked about offenses, he talked about the volition and action, and then this was the summary of that conversation. And so Nigantanatha Buddha is very pleased, having heard his disciple go and share his teaching with the Samana Gautama. And he says, well, excellent, Tapasi, well done you. As as by a learned disciple who knows the teaching of his teacher perfectly, even so did Diga Tapasi, the naked ascetic, explain to Samana Gautama the teaching of his teacher. So he's praising his student for having gone to the Buddha and having shared with him his teaching. And he said, well done you, because you correctly went and identified with him that bodily offense is the more heinous offense than the other two. Now, at this time there was the Nigantanatha Putta's chief benefactor. What's his name again? Upali. So Upali was in the presence of the gathering, and Upali spoke to Nigantanatha Putta and he says, oh, excellent, excellent, sir. Diga Tapasi has really shown colors. I mean, isn't that really remarkable? And how well he has performed in the presence of the Buddha. As a very learned disciple of yours, he's gone and shown the Buddha right from wrong. Right? So they've gone to teach the Buddha a lesson. Well, let's see who learns a lesson at the end. And then, not only does Upali praise this disciple of the Nigantanatha Putta, Diga Tapasi, but he also says, you know, this is a very, so Upali is not just a benefactor, but he's a very talkative guy, and he also wants to, he likes to prove things. He's very forward. He's a very forward chap. So he says, right, let me go and speak to this Samana Gautama. And after I go to him, so here's what he says he's going to do to the Buddha, okay? I like this bit, because I find it quite entertaining. If the Samana Gautama should affirm likewise to me as he was made to affirm by the Venerable Tapasi, so here's what he says he's going to be doing. Just as a strong man would seize a long-haired ram, you can think of it as a sheep, okay? A long-haired ram by its fleece and pull it along and draw it towards him and drag it hither and thither, so throw it to and fro. Even so will I pull up, draw towards me and drag the Samana Gautama hither and thither in the debate. So what's he saying? I'm going to walk up to him, I'm going to engage with him in debate, and I'm going to, just like a strong man would catch a sheep or a ram by its fleece and then throw it left and right and shake it up and down and to and fro, I'm going to do the same thing with the Samana Gautama in my debate with him. So once I have spoken with him, he will have no legs to run. So this is what? Who's saying this? Upali. Little does Upali know what's await. what's going to be happening to him in a bit. So he doesn't stop there. He gives another simile. He says, or just as a sturdy distillery man would fling a huge distillery strainer. So it's something that they must have used back in the day to strain perhaps alcohols into a deep vat, and holding the rim, pull it up, draw it towards him and drag it hither and thither. So it's just something that they used to do in the day. They use a vat. Vat is something that you used for distilling alcohols and the likes. So just like a strong man would fling it to and fro and shake it up, out and about, I'm going to engage with the Buddha in debate and do just the same to him. Oh, and here's another one. Or just as an elephant of 60 years, not any old elephant, a 60-year-old elephant. I can figure out, kind of gather how old Upali might have been. So just as an elephant of 60 years plunges into a deep lake, and having done so, plays a kind of game called washing the hemp. So that's the name of the game. Even so will I sport, as it were, with the Samana Gautama. So he's saying, I'm going to engage with him in sport. I'm going to play with him. Right? Like a child plays with its toys. So he's saying, I'm going to go to the Samana Gautama and I'm going to play with him. Right? I'm going to show him who's boss. Well, Venerable Sir, I shall go and refute the Samana Gautama on this matter. So Upali is now asking permission from Nigantanatha Putta to go and engage in this debate. So at this point, Nigantanatha Putta says, go, householder, I fear not. Because I know that you are an unshakable benefactor of mine. There's no way that you can be converted. If anything, knowing your prowess, knowing what you're capable of, when you're in the presence of the Samana Gautama, right, he will be converted to my teaching. He doesn't know the first thing about who the Buddha is. right? However, Vigatapasi, because now he's already had a conversation with the Buddha, he realizes something, this is not right. Right? He's sensing this is trouble is aloof. Right? Something, this is not right, because he left a bad taste in his mouth last time he spoke with the Buddha. You can imagine that, right? Go into the presence of the man who has the greatest personality there is. Right? Just his presence and his radiance. The five ascetics, when they first met the Buddha, and coming towards him to preach the Dhamma, they couldn't stay the way they had made their minds up. We're not going to stand up, we're not going to show our veneration, we're not going to show any respect. But could they stay the way they decided when in the presence of the Buddha? No, of course not. This is merits walking on legs. This is infinite power, infinite wisdom, infinite compassion, radiating compassion on legs. Right? So you can't stay the way you want in the presence of the Buddha. So Tapasi says, Nigantanatha Putta, I'm not really sure about this. Maybe we shouldn't do that, right? Maybe we should call it a day. Perhaps we'll try another day. And then Nigantanatha Putta says, oh, don't you worry, Tapasi. Because Digatapasi says, it may be that the Buddha might convert Upali. And what happens if that happens? This is the chief benefactor, right? You know what people are talking about us these days, right? Similar kind of story. So time has a way of repeating old incidents. 2,500 years later, same thing again. Right? So don't go to him because they might convert you. You might have heard similar stories. Right? Don't go to him because they'll convert you, and after they're converted, then that will be disaster. That will spell disaster for us. We will not have any food to eat. We will not have robes. Or actually, no, they are naked, so they don't need robes. But at least, they need food and places to dwell in. They won't get anything. So Nigantanatha Putta, he's not scared. He says, no, it's absolutely impossible. Tapasi, do not fear. It can never happen. It can never happen that Upali, the householder, should become a disciple of the Samana Gotama. But there is certainly a possibility of this, that the Samana Gotama might become a disciple of mine. So go, householder, refute the Samana Gotama. So in other words, engage with him in debate on this matter, because if you don't go, then I'm going to go anyway. So you can go. So third time, 2-3 times Digatapasi says, sir, I think we ought not to be doing this, but on every occasion, Nigantanatha Putta says, no, fear not, let's go. So finally, what does Upali do? The best thing he's ever done in samsara. The best journey he's ever set foot. He goes. So in response and rising up from his feet, he respectfully saluted Nigantanatha Putta, passed him round to the right and proceeded to the mango grove where the Blessed One was. Approaching the Blessed One, he respectfully saluted and sat on one side. Thus seated, Upali the householder addressed the Blessed One as follows. Venerable Sir, did Digatapasi, the naked ascetic, come this way? So he obviously knows the answer. We're still asking the question. He came this way, householder, replied the Buddha. Had you, Venerable Sir, any conversation with him? Who's asking? Upali is asking. Who's asking from? The Buddha, yes. He said, yes, certainly. The householder and I had some conversation. Now, does the Buddha not know what the outcome of this conversation is going to be? He knows exactly what's going to happen at the end of this conversation. But, so you see, this is like a mother with a little child. Right? A mother with a little baby, a little infant. Little does he know who he has come to refute. Little does he know that he's made the best journey he's ever made in his life, in entire samsara. Little does he know that this man is not going to walk away the same way he came here. The Buddha knows this, but Upali doesn't. Certainly not yet. So when he had finished, Upali the householder said to the Blessed One, so the Buddha relates the conversation they had, and at the end of that, Upali says, well, excellent, Venerable Sir. So it seems that the conversation that you had was between offense and karma, and it seems that the Samana Gautama is of the belief that the mental volition is more fierce than the other two. But my teacher, who is Nigantanatha Buddha, his teaching is that bodily offense is more heinous and more severe than the other two. Are you willing to engage with me in a debate? Who's asking? Dupali. Dupali, the householder, is asking the Buddha, are you willing to engage with me in a debate? Now the Buddha, again, in his true fashion, he says, well, householder, I will engage with you in debate, however, on one promise. You must speak the truth and nothing but the truth. If you are steadfast to the truth, then I will speak with you. So the things that you say, we should be able to go back and say, well, you said so, didn't you? We should be able to link the things you said one to each other. So you can't say disjointed things, because that makes no sense. I'm not going to engage in frivolous speech. Our conversation, our debate has to be of some meaning. Are you prepared for that? The Buddha asks, oh, and this man, oh yeah, of course. How else would we debate? Yes, of course we are ready for that. Right then, what do you think, householder? So the Buddha asks now, what do you think, householder? Suppose there was a naked ascetic here, afflicted with disease. So he's suffering, seriously ill, who refused cold water and lived on hot water. He, not taking cold water, would die. Now, householder, where does Nigantanatha Buddha hold that he would be reborn? So it used to be that these Nigantas, in the day, they do not take hot water, or cold water rather. They don't take cold water. They only take hot water. But this man, there's a man who's sick. So the Buddha is asking, let's say one of your folk, they're ill, they're indisposed, and to cure this, you have to take cold water. But this man does not take cold water, and he dies. According to Nigantanatha Buddha's teaching, where is this man going to be reborn? Okay? So then he says, Venerable Sir, there are deities who are known as mind attached. In the Pali it says Mano Mulika. There is he reborn. For what reason? Because, Venerable Sir, he dies with mental attachment. So Upali says, because he has died with mental attachment, he is going to be born in a world that is with deities who are mind attached. Now the Buddha says, oh, hang on. Upali, please think back to what you said earlier. You said that bodily offense is more severe than mental offense. So now how can you be saying that based on his mental attachment, where he's been reborn has been determined? Because if anything, based on what you said earlier, he should be born somewhere which is in line with his physical action, not his mental attachments. So when the Buddha said this, so the Buddha says, what you said earlier, the latter does not agree with your former. What you say now does not agree with what you said earlier. You promised me that you will only talk based on the truth. Are you sure this is how you want to continue your conversation? So Upali says, well, yes, sir. I will still continue my conversation. No matter what you say, I am of the belief that physical offense is more severe and more heinous than mental. And then the Buddha asks a second question. So he says, what then do you think, householder? Suppose there was a naked ascetic here, restrained with the 4 kinds of restraint. Because if you read any of the texts, if you have read any of the texts, you will realize that Nigantanatha Buddha's doctrine involves the restraint of 4 kinds of restraint. Okay, I'm not going to go into the detail here. Actually, no, it says here, he is restrained as regards all evil, is devoted to restraint as regards all evil, has shaken off all evil, has pervaded with restraint as regards all evil. He, whilst walking up and down, inflicts destruction upon many tiny creatures. So the Buddha asks, on this occasion, he says, according to your philosophy, you are restrained from all evil, right? So you believe in compassion towards all beings. So therefore you inflict no physical pain and injury on any beings whatsoever. But let's say a Niganta, one of your clan, who is restrained as such, continues to walk up and down. And as he's walking up and down, he treads on tiny creatures, many tiny creatures. And in doing so, these creatures are destroyed. So what happens to this man? Because if it's bodily action that is more severe, then what he's doing is pranagata, right? He's engaging in the destruction of life. So if it's bodily action, what does your teacher say is going to happen to this man? And then Upali says, well, sir, this is how you would have said it. I'm adding that into this. But yeah, that's not in the sutra. I'm adding that. So he says, well, sir, Nigantanatha Putta declares that what is unintentional is not heinous. What is unintentional is not heinous. So where is intention now? In the mind. So intention's in the mind. So he's saying what is unintentional is not heinous. Apparently Nigantanatha Putta, that is his teaching. And then the Buddha asks, but how so? If it's intentional? Oh, then sir, it's heinous. So now it's bad. It's a bad karma or a bad offense. So then the Buddha asks, okay, well, in which offense does Nigantanatha Putta recognize intention? In mental offense, Venerable Sir. Actually, this is how he would have said, in mental offense. That's how he probably would have said it. Now again the Buddha says, hold on, householder, think carefully before you reply, because what you say now does not agree with what you said earlier. The latter does not agree with the former, with your former statement. Now again, Upali says, well, okay, but nevertheless, I still believe that bodily action is more heinous. So on the second occasion, Upali says, I still believe that bodily action is more heinous than mental, or bodily offense rather. Okay, so final occasion, the Buddha gives him another chance to save face. See how kind the Buddha is. Another chance to save face. So what do you think of this then, householder? This town of Nalanda, which is where they're residing at the moment, right? This town of Nalanda has flourished and prospered and has a vast population is crowded with men. Okay, there's a large population in Nalanda. And Upali says, yes, Venerable Sir, yeah, that is true. It's flourished and prospered and has a vast population. And then the Buddha asks, okay, what do you think then, householder? Suppose someone were to come here with an uplifted sword, so a sword in hand, and say in one moment, in an instant, I will do a massacre. I will massacre every living creature in this town and destroy everybody. So this is one man with one sword, okay? And he asks Upali, do you think that's possible? Then Upali says, well, sir, not one, not even 10, no, not even 20, 30, or even 50 persons, because Nalanda is quite a large town. Not even 50 people will suffice. Not even 50 people brandished with swords in their hands will be able to come and destroy every living man in an instant. Then the Buddha says, oh, well. What do you think then, householder? Suppose a Brahmin who has developed his mental capacities, his spiritual powers, possessed of supernormal psychic power. You remember watching that video one day? Yeah. So supernormal psychic powers and mastery of the mind were to come here and say, this town of Nalanda I will reduce to ashes by one thought of intense hatred. So what if a Brahmin comes and says that, do you think, householder, that this Brahmin will be able to do that? The Buddha asks. Then Upali says, sir, not just one Nalanda, one Brahmin with his psychic powers could destroy not just 10, 20, 30, even 50 Nalandas. So Nalandas being not Nalanda College, Nalandas being the towns. Right? So previously what did he say? Not one man, not 10, 20, 30, not even 50 men brandishing swords could come and destroy one Nalanda. But now he's saying, not one Nalanda. One Brahmin with supernatural psychic powers could come and destroy 10, 20, 30 or 50 Nalandas in one thought with intense hatred. Now again, what does the Buddha say? Hold on. Householder, think carefully before you reply, because what you say now does not agree with what you said earlier. Because what did he say earlier? That physical offense is more powerful than mental offense. But what are you saying now? Mental action is more powerful than physical action. So I think there's another example. I'm going to skip that just in the interest of time. You can find this sutra on in the Tripitaka or in the, of course you have to find it in the Tripitaka. Where else would you find it? It's also available on the internet if you just do a quick search. So ultimately, so there's a fourth example the Buddha goes in. I'm not going to talk about that in the moment. Now again the Buddha says, well, householder, think carefully before you answer. The latter does not agree with your former statement. And on all four occasions, the Buddha was able to prove to Pali that his view, his belief was flawed. And then finally, Upali says, Venerable Sir, with your very first illustration, not the second nor the third, with your very first, because this is a wise man. This is an intelligent chap. He's an intelligent chap. With your very first illustration, I was satisfied and delighted with the Blessed One. Okay? Nevertheless, I'm glad that he continued this conversation. Okay? Because that's why, that conversation allowed us to witness the compassion and the wisdom of the Buddha. Nevertheless, as I wish to hear the Blessed One's beautiful expositions of these problems, I thought of contradicting the Blessed One. So why did he contradict? Because he wanted to hear the Buddha continue his exposition. He was impressed by the first illustration and he was converted with the first illustration, but he just wanted the Buddha to continue. And then he says, excellent, Venerable Sir, excellent. It is, Venerable Sir, as if a man were to set up right that which was overturned, or were to reveal that which was hidden, or were to point the way to one who had gone astray. Where else have you heard this? Pretty much everywhere. Everywhere you see someone being converted from their set of beliefs to that of the Buddha's teaching. You will see this appear time and time again, even in the Piritpota. Angulimala or Alavaka, in the Alavaka Sutra you will find this. Or to hold a lamp, were to hold a lamp amidst the darkness, so that those who have eyes may see. Even so has the doctrine been expounded in various ways by the Blessed One. I too, Venerable Sir, take refuge in the Buddha. What did he come now to do? What did he come to do? To convert the Buddha. See what he's saying now. I, Venerable Sir, take refuge in the Buddha, the doctrine and the order which being the Sangha. May the Blessed One receive me as a follower, as one who has taken refuge from this very day to life's end. Now, you want to hear what the Buddha said after that? He says, householder, please make a thorough investigation. It is good for a distinguished man like you, because Upali is no ordinary man. Right? He's a very respected, well-to-do, affluent person in society. He is the chief benefactor of the Nigantas. So you can imagine there was a large population of Nigantas. And for this man to be the chief benefactor, you know how much power Anathapindika had, how much money he had, right? He was a very wealthy man. So this is the same, except in the Niganta Nathaputta's order. So it is good for a distinguished man like you to make a thorough investigation before you convert. Venerable Sir, Now, this is the Upali replying to the Buddha. Venerable Sir, I was satisfied with what you said before, when you gave me those illustrations, and I realized that I was wrong in the way I was thinking. But now, having listened to what you said about think twice before you convert, think twice before you go and say that I have now listened to the Buddha's teaching and I am now a disciple of the Buddha and so on and so forth, I am still more satisfied and delighted with the Blessed One because he cautions me. He cautions me, householder, make a thorough investigation. It is well for a distinguished man like you to first make a thorough investigation. For Venerable Sir, other religious leaders have acquired me as a disciple. Who would acquire me as a disciple would carry banners around the whole of Nalanda. So you can imagine what a powerful man Upali was. If other religious leaders were able to convert me and take me upon as one of their benefactors, they would carry banners around all of Nalanda saying, Upali, the householder, has become a disciple of ours. However, on the contrary, the Blessed One admonishes me first to make a thorough investigation. For the second time, Venerable Sir, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Sangha, and the order. And then the Buddha continues, Upali, like we would in our word, Upali, for a long time now, householder, your family has been like a fountain to the naked ascetics. Hence, you must bear in mind that alms should be given to those who come. See, what is the Buddha saying? Up until this point, those people have relied on your generosity, on your alms. So from now on, what must you do? Continue. Not stop, continue. To which you can imagine what Upali's words would be. Such words, Venerable Sir. He would have, in today's idioms, he would have said, that is like music to my ears, Venerable Sir. What he says is, such words, Venerable Sir, make me still more satisfied and delighted with the Blessed One. I have heard, Venerable Sir, that the Samana Gautama speaks thus.